Welcome to the channel. It's Kevin Navigates. It's Kevin here. So I got a question to ask you. What would make you miss a holiday? Is it could be various questions. Well, today I'm going to dive into live why I missed Memorial Day weekend with my family. Now I just got back in from a trip, and it was a conference that I scheduled back in November, not realizing that it was over Memorial Day weekend. It was quite a shock when my wife and family found out that I would not be spending Memorial Day weekend with them, but instead, I would be going off to Orlando on a business trip. So stick with me for the next 30 or 40 minutes, and I'm going to go over why, what I learned, who I saw, who I met, and was it worth it? So, anyways, this whole video is on basically investing in yourself in the perspective of uh, was is investing in yourself worth it? Anyways, so what I did was I went to this show called Rebel Capitalist Live. Now, I did this last year as well, but it was not over Memorial Day weekend. So last year, I met some people that I stayed in touch with, and I had done other. I mean, I've done many of these things before, not a whole lot, but quite a few of them, mostly for work. But I made a promise to myself that what I would do is I would several times a year do something to invest in myself, to learn, network, get different perspectives, kind of push myself out of a comfort zone. And I've always believed that you are the sum of the five people that you hang around the most with. Uh, One of the things that my coach always told me was you can't fly like an eagle if you're surrounded by turkeys. So I'm surrounded by a lot of turkeys at times around work and construction. Believe me, there are a lot of them. So we have a lot of sayings in that world. So, anyways, I want to do a little series over the next probably a week or so, going over the what I learned, who spoke, how it resonated with me, did it change my mind, and the topics included many, many, many different things. For example, look, see, attendee, whoop, whoop, there we go, attendee. Um, there was many, many topics covered. It is mostly a investing. Well, let's back up. I found this through my YouTube journey, where I was looking. I spent a lot of time on the road, and I listened to a lot of radio. And the radio bored me, and I ended up spending time listening to sports talk radio. Became an expert on my favorite teams. Then I went to podcast, listening to Apple podcasts and stuff like that. And then I went to YouTube. And during the COVID, I spent a lot of time in the car driving. And everybody else, when they weren't working, I was working twice as hard. And I really was changed the way I looked at my life, what I was doing, what I was working for, just complete different perspective. And this whole video is, perspective. And so I think it's really important that you get different perspectives from different people, different point of views. And so this investment conference is mostly focused around investing, macro and microeconomics, YouTube content and creation, and liberties, as far as personal liberties. Now, George Gammon, the guy that puts this on every year, he's a really interesting guy. I got a little thing on him right here. Let me go over real quick. So, all right. So, George, he's a real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur. He's all self-taught on the whole micro thing, and he will tell you, he's like, I'm still learning. He's a tall guy. At first, when I was listening to him, I was like, man, this guy's really out there. But anyways, he retired in 2012. He founded Rebel Capitalist Pro. It's basically a investment community focused on macroeconomics, investing, real estate. He's kind of become known for like simplifying complex economic concepts and helping people, helping individuals, and that really resonated with me. I think that's why I kind of tuned in and listened. And I don't listen to everything, but I listen to a lot of it. And I'm the same way. And one thing that he said at this conference was, he's just the type of guy. He's got to understand how things work, and that's how I am. I have to understand how things work. So we talk about at this conference, we talk about some really complex issues and problems and just everything imaginable. His first intro when he came on, this was Saturday morning. He went on and it was about a 30-minute intro. The thing that really got me was I try to stay up on things, and he hit me with something that I had never heard of. And he started talking about in January 1 of 2026, every baby that's born in the United States, there will be an account created by the Treasury, and the Treasury will deposit $1,000 into that account for this new baby in the United States. And I thought about that for a minute, and I had no idea where he was going with this. And the more that he talked, he has really tried to wrap his head around universal basic income, UBI, where the government pays everybody a salary. And it's been floated out there for a long time. And it's it's a social program. Well, anyways, he talked about that, and he said, is this the first steps in not only creating a UBI for everyone in the United States, but also about creating a central bank digital currency? And I didn't think about that. I hadn't even thought about the creation of these accounts. And then I've done deep dives on the Department of Education as far as shutting down and the Treasury issuing payments to parents for vouchers for school choice. And it's something that I'm really interested in seeing what happens with that. And anyways, this all starts to really make sense. This is just his intro. This is just getting started, and he's talking about this, and I'm going, wow, he's really got my attention now. And so he talks about the what ifs, and one of the things I really like about this particular group is they have a mastermind think tank. Now, I went last year, and I was in the VIP green room, and I met a lot of them, and I thought about that. Now it's capped to 50 people, and I think they have 38 or 39 in this think tank, and they meet for 2 days before this even starts. And it goes back to my sum of five. The brain power and the thought and everything that this group of people has created, it makes me think, and kind of puts me in a point of where I should say it's kind of humbling, and it's also exciting and inspiring as well. Well, anyways, he does his intro and everything, and I digesting it, and I met up sitting next to a gentleman that I met last year, who we hit it off. We don't live that far apart. We're 1,000 miles away, and we meet up for lunch occasionally, and we talk. And what's really cool is that it's having people that have the same mindset and mentality and thoughts that you do. And this is how this gentleman that I met last year is. And it was really awesome to spend 3 days with him. And it just felt like I'd known him for years, um, and hang out because we share a lot of the same ideas, thoughts, and many people at this event. You find these are like-minded individuals. So, you always say it's you got to find your people, or your village, or whatever it might be, and that's what it kind of feels like. So, again, um, going down to this thing, I'm missing Memorial Day. I missed a 2-day soccer tournament for my daughter, and I'm feeling a little guilty. I'm feeling like, wow, I don't know that this was the best thing to do. And I didn't do the VIP because I wasn't convinced that I was going to go and everything else. But my wife is like, and she's so supportive. She's like, go, just go. So on the way down, I grabbed the book, and I coach lacrosse. I've been coaching lacrosse my whole life, been competitive, and this was something else that I'm trying to incorporate as well is reading and spending less time watching TV or watching shows or anything like that. And it goes along with everything about leveling up and investing in yourself. So I picked up this book, and at the airport on a whim, it's The Art of Winning by Bill Belichick. And what's interesting about that is I had seen the interviews and people making fun of him and roasting him and everything else. Now, Belichick grew up in the same town I did. So, of course, most people know who Bill Belichick is, NFL coach, probably one of the most successful head coach of all time, with his impressive records and just rings and everything else. And what came to mind about Belichick was recently we took a trip to Clemson, South Carolina, and on the way back, because I coached lacrosse, we stopped by and caught a little bit of the practice of the North Carolina women's lacrosse team, who just won the NCAA national championship yesterday. And the sister of the head coach is on the same staff at the same school as my wife. So we stopped by to watch a little bit of the practice. What was so amazing was watching the team play and or practice, and how supportive and how encouraging and at what the high level that they performed at. It was amazing to see that. The reason I say that is on the plane down, I read another book that I picked up in the airport called Number One Dad. And it's a short book. It's 120 pages. I read it front to cover from the time I got on the plane to the time I got back. So my plan was at this conference was to network as much as I could and read this book, Art of Winning. So it kind of gives a little bit of the backstory on leveling up and perspective. So in this whole journey, go through this intro, and the first person out the gate at the Rebel Capitalist Live is a guy by the name of Joseph Wang. Now, Joseph Wang is he has a YouTube channel called Fed Guy, and I sat down with Joseph Wang last year and talked to him for probably an hour. And he was a trader for the Federal Reserve, bond trader. Interacted with Jerome Powell, and again, going back to the Sum of Five, this is a very smart, highly accomplished individual. We talked about everything from diet to interest rates to eczema to, just all over the point, from building houses. You name it. We talked about everything. Now, Joseph Wang, he's known as the Fed Guy. He's a former senior trader at the Federal Reserve's open market trading desk. And he's an author of Central Banking 101. And it provides insights into monetary policy and financial markets. Um, and that's what he did. One of the common themes I noticed last year was so many people that I met, they had all written books. And I don't read much. I mean, I read for work and different things, but as far as reading books for entertainment or anything else, if I want to learn something, I'll read it. So there's a common theme coming with everybody here, and that sum of five and leveling up. So Joseph Wang comes in. Of course, everybody wants to talk about the Federal Reserve and are interest rates going to go up? Are they going to are they going to lower? What they're going to do? And each person I'm talking about, George Gammon, everybody I go down this list, I'm going to do a separate episode on each one of them because I'm going to tell you what I got from them, why I listen to them, do I agree with them or do I not agree? But anyways, I'm just kind of introducing who these players are. The next person, which I was really disappointed in. Now, here's this list here of, let me get back on this page here. Here's a list of people that were at the event. And you can see Joseph Wang up there. And the next person was Robert Barnes. And one of the main reasons I went was to see Robert Barnes because this guy is amazing. He is a constitutional lawyer. And the stories of networking are incredible. So to give you an idea, I was talking to Robert Kiyosaki, and for people that know or don't know Robert Kiyosaki, he wrote a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and his whole thing has been Rich Dad Poor Dad. And in the book, he tells a story of his dad being I believe it was a college professor with a PhD, and he was poor, and his dad wanted him to do exactly what he did and get a good education, go get a job. And in this book, it talks about how his best friend's dad, who was like his second dad, was who he called his rich dad. Now, that dad that he spent a lot of time with was different. He owned a business, and instead of giving his son money, he told him, go get a job and go out there and work. And do not ever work for anybody else, only work for yourself. And it was two different philosophies. So Robert, he's a hoot. He's hilarious. He's so funny. And he grew up in Hawaii. He also he was in I believe it was the Marine Corps, flew helicopters in Vietnam. Just a funny guy. Talks, I mean, straight to the point. And anyways, so at this networking thing, we were sitting around talking, and I'm getting back to this Robert Barnes, and Kiyosaki was talking about how I guess it was a day there was a picture that Kiyosaki had of he was next to Trump, and he does a lot of things with the Trump family, and there's a picture of him, and Trump's got a Band-Aid on his ear from where, or bandage on his ear. It was a day after he had gotten shot at. And anyways, it was wild that, he was telling the story about Robert Barnes and him and about the election. And again, it's that sum of five game, being surrounded with people that are so not only just connected, it's not the connections, but are have different perspectives and different circles in which you have, and it gives you a complete understanding or just again perspective. That's what this whole thing is about: perspective, a different perspective. So, anyways, Robert Barnes couldn't be there, and which brings me to my next guy, which is Dana Samuelson. Now, Dana, I had spent a lot of time talking to last year, and it just so happened that Dana he has a gold company, American Gold, And I really like Dana. Dana and I are have a lot of similarities. We're both older guys married with younger kids. And last night, or when it was time to leave, I ordered an Uber. I'm sitting there waiting for the Uber. Here comes Dana out of the hotel, getting ready to go to the airport. And I said, "Hey, Dana, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey, I didn't even know you were here." And I had seen him several times, but I just hadn't talked to him. I said, "You going to the airport?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, look, I just got an Uber. Why don't you jump in with me?" So we rode to the airport together, and we were talking. And he said, "What airline you on?" So we were on the same airline, and our flights were within about an hour. So we sat down, had dinner, had a great conversation, talked about things. He's got a YouTube channel. I told him about this channel just starting off. And it was just a great conversation. It was to sit down and talk to somebody. And we talked about construction. We talked about all kinds of different things. And I'll go more into in Dana in his world. But anyways, Dana got up and talked, and he talked about how Barnes wasn't able to be there, and he kind of filled in. Well, he's on this mastermind group. So again, it's the sum of five and the perspective, which leads me to the next. Let me see what else I have on Dana. So Dana's for 45 years, he's got in the precious metal market. President of American Gold Exchange, and he specializes in U.S. gold coins and bullion. And this guy is no nonsense, knows his stuff inside and out. I mean, great guy. So while I was there, the next guy that I ran across was Patrick Ceresna, which I had never heard of this guy. Again, another YouTuber. And I'm sitting there, and he goes and he starts talking, and he's a trader, and he's talking about trading and making money and everything else. And he starts talking about asymmetric trading and technicals. And I was like, wow. So that's what I really enjoy doing. I love looking for asymmetric trades. I like the technical side of it. And here this guy gets up and he just starts talking. And he created this thing called, get back over here, the big picture. And it's big picture trading. And kind of goes all over who he is. Let me back up. Who he is and everything else. And he's got a membership thing. But again, he uses options. And he's always basically gave a really good talk about asymmetric trading. And for people that don't know what asymmetric trading is, there's 5 things that can happen when you invest. And one is the pinky. The pinky is you can lose a lot of money. So you try not to ever do that. You eliminate that possibility. The next possibility is you lose a little bit of money. And there's ways in which you do that. Whether you're doing trades or investments or whatever, there's stop losses, there's different things, but you have a predetermined that you aren't going to tank all of your investments or your money with big losses. You get rid of that possibility, and then you limit yourself to little losses. Okay, so that leaves us 3 things that can happen. 2 of them, one of them's really bad, one of them's a little bad, and then the next one is nothing. It can be flat. You make no money. It just sits there idle. It doesn't do anything. Okay. So that one's not bad. You've tried something. It kind of is or isn't working, but it's not costing you any money. The next scenario is you can make a little bit of money. Okay. And then the final thing here is you can make a lot of money. Now, what asymmetric is where you're trying to do this by eliminating this and only having a little exposure to a loss. You're eliminating, you may be a little gain or flat, but you're making bets through leverage that if it would cost you pennies on the dollar to control a bunch of stocks. For example, what I'm talking about in asymmetric trading is you use options contract to identify something that may or may not happen. And the likelihood of it happening is a lot less than it actually happening. So, for example, uh, this is hypothetical. I just have a background in, it may or may not have played out, but back in the election, I did something which was called the election carry trade. And it's a trade. And if you go back through history and you look, you see how every election, there has been events that happened in the first 100 days, and certain things have reacted to it. So I put that trade in place and it didn't pan out. But I had an options contract on it. So for an options contract, you basically have the leverage, or you have the control over 100 shares. Now, in order to do that, these contracts that you have, you don't own the shares, but you have control of them. So it cost me to control 100 shares. It cost me, I think it was $300 or whatever. And you set a price at what you think it's going to go. And that price where you think that stock's going to go determines the price of this contract to control those 100 shares. So I did this, and it didn't work out. I lost my couple $100, $300 or whatever it was. So I sat back and I looked at it. Now I have my own group of influence and people around me with their own perspectives, and we were looking at things. And with the whole tariff, it was okay. This declaration day, this could be massive. So there was a trade that was put in that you could do it on indices or whatever. My hypothetical one was on the triple Qs, the QQQ, where I bet that the stock was going to go down, and it was going to go down in a big way. And again, for my couple $100, I was, or in theory, was able to control these 100 shares. And when the market, when Independence Day came, or whatever, Judgment Day, or whatever you want to call the day in which all these tariffs really kicked off, the market tanked. Now that bet played off really good, and that was several 100% gain on that. And then close that position out, and you take your money and run. That is a asymmetric trade. Again, you don't own the stocks, very limited, very small loss possibility. There really is, you're playing in this small loss world. It's not going to, it's either going to, you're going to lose a little or you're going to gain a lot. That's it. That's usually the two things. You might gain a little, but it's usually one of the two. So that's asymmetric trading. And it was cool because Patrick, that's what he does. That he talked about it. So I'm going great. I said, Gammon started this thing off. He's got me thinking about something I had never thought about, universal basic income, with the starting of a central bank digital currency, with everybody being born in January, getting $1,000, having an account set up in the treasury. So when we have a breakout session, people are talking about these things. Now, not many people are talking about a specialty such as asymmetric trading. In fact, the funny thing is, when this Patrick was talking, we had a break, and the guy I was talking to was talking about trading and investing, and there's a bunch of people, and he asked me what I was interested in. I said asymmetric trading, and he is a individual that trades options and stuff, and I had to explain to him what asymmetry was. He didn't even know, and it was cool because he sat behind me during Patrick's talk, and when he was done, I turned around and I said, "Hey, do you understand what asymmetric trading is?" They're like, I had no idea. So it's really cool that, again, that sum of five people around you, and to learn, and or get reinforced. For me, it was a reinforcement that my mindset of what I was doing on my own was validated. It was, yep, you got this. I went up to Patrick, started talking to him, and it was very easy conversation because it's like-minded people, like-minded individuals. It was very, very easy to have a conversation with him. So then the next person they had up was a man by the name of Rick Rule. Now, Rick Rule, who is Rick Rule? I'm going to tell you here in a second. So Rick Rule, he's an investor, most known for the precious metal space. He's got a deep expertise in natural resources, all natural resources, the mining sectors. He's the founder of Rural Investment Media and is known for identifying undervalued assets, particularly in the junior mining industry. Now, I had gone to an event called the Silver Symposium, and that was all junior miners, startups, everything else. They don't even have it anymore. It was in Vegas, so I played with that a little bit, and I kind of got away from it. But anyways, uh, he started talking about what he thought was going to happen with some commodities, and kind of gave a little bit of talk and background on what was happening in rare earth, which are not rare. And he started talking about China and how China had positioned themselves and what they were doing. And it gave you a really, again, it's that sum of five, a different perspective of what I talked about. A lot of his speech was talking about how what China has done is it has made the commodity space so cheap that if there's a competitor in that space, they run them out of that space, including U.S. companies, no matter who they are. And then what they do is they then control the distribution, the production, and in most cases, the mining of that commodity. So he gave me a perspective that I had never even thought about. Of now, I'm familiar with practices called dumping and different things like that, but again, it's a perspective and a viewpoint that I hadn't even thought about, and I can't wait to talk about him in my uh, uh, going forward. So the next speaker they had was a guy by the name of Ken McElroy, and I actually worked for a guy very similar to Ken McElroy. So I'm very familiar with multifamily housing. I've been involved with multifamily housing. So I had listened to Ken before. He's a real estate investor. He's, again, an author and CEO of big company. He's got $2 billion in real estate assets. Um, Again, he is a prominent figure when it comes to real estate education. Um, and he has a YouTube channel and he writes books. And, I've always, my whole entire life, wanted to write a book. And now I'm uh, being influenced, surrounded by, and getting the perspective of other people that are writing books. I'm thinking to myself, I really need to put some thoughts down because, um, again, if I'm the type of person to figure out how does things work, and I am putting together, I see how things are working, and everybody. One of the most common things that every speaker here said is, "I don't know that I'm right. I don't know that I'm wrong. I'm taking the data, I'm taking the information in which I have, and this is what it's telling me." And I'm a firm believer, for example, in people. If someone tells you who they are, believe them. Believe who they are. Um, because if you don't, you're probably going to be disappointed. So, anyways, listen to Ken McElroy, and he's very educated. Gave a lot of really good information. So then they had a panel discussion where everybody came up and they were talking about things. And there's a guy that's on the panel. His name's Simon. Simon has a channel, and all these guys all have channels, which is funny. And it's inspiring because they have hundreds and thousands of viewers. And I at this point, I think I have, well, I don't have hundreds of thousands. I don't even have 1,000 yet. So again, it's perspective, and it's being around people that have been successful and are succeeding, and are sharing knowledge. So they have panel discussion. This guy Simon is up there. He's got a YouTube channel called Uneducated Economist, and he shoots his videos from his car at lunchtime, and he works at a lumber desk in a lumber yard. And we hit it off last year because I deal with guys like him all the time, and just a super good guy. Well, he is anything but uneducated because he goes into the Cantillon effect, and he's a very smart. He gets talking on the board about some things, and I sit there and watch uh, these guys that are smart and everything else, and they do like a double take and they kind of shudder when he's speaking. And we talked after it that night at the have a networking event, and he goes, "Yeah," he says, "What's really cool is that, I'm the blue collar guy here," and he said, "When I can get guys from a different perspective and hit them with something that they did not see coming," he goes, "it makes me feel really good." And that was absolutely 100% true. It really made them think. I'm not going to spoil that yet, but it was really, really good what he did up on there, and just sharing. So everybody has something to share, and everybody has a perspective, and everybody has a motivation. So it was really good. So the next day, and it's a long day. I think then by the time I got back to my room, I first got that morning up at 7:30, met James, and went down to our first session. Other than an hour and 20 minutes for lunch, we were either talking, networking, or listening, or taking notes, or interacting with people on these topics. So um, by the time we got done networking, it was 11:30 by the time I got back to my room. And we start back again at 7:30 in the morning, and we hit it again. And the next day, we hit it with Robert Kiyosaki. And that night, prior to him giving his talk, I got a picture with Robert and talked with him, and uh, just, hey, how you doing? How you been? Type things. Uh, and he's just he's a funny guy, and he's just to the point, genuine. I mean, he says it like it is. That's one thing about him. And anyways, he gave a talk, and he basically talked about the book, and again, writing a book. And he's got board games, and he's got staff, and he's got people, and he's got all these people that work for him. And his big thing is he talks about the quadrant, and what quadrant you're in, and where you really want to be. And after he spoke, I walked up to him and said, uh, I play games every night with my kids, and I said, I need to start playing your board game with them. And he said, yeah. He says, I actually have one for him. He said, the reason in which I started the board game was I felt it was so important for people to practice, was that I developed the game. And he's like, I encourage people to play the game all the time, because by playing the game, he goes, think about this. When you were a kid and you played baseball or lacrosse or whatever sport you did, you practice, you practice, you practice, you played, you played, you played. And some people became good and some people did not become good. But with anything, you have to practice, and you have to develop a team, and the team around you needs to be aligned. And I got to thinking about it, and it just so happened that when I started reading this book, the first thing in Belichick's introduction and his first chapter talks about his role of a coach. First, he thanked everybody, and he talked about a little bit about all the teams he had been on, all the practicing, all the evaluating, all the people and mentors that influenced him. And he talked about how um, uh, he recognized that his job as a coach, but you get to the first chapter, he talks about he starts off with his first Super Bowl. And I'm not going to go into great detail about his first Super Bowl. And he talks about the Belichick travel group. And he talks about his job is that when he gets to a big game in big moments, is to keep doing the same thing that you have done to get there and not to change. And he said the most important thing about him winning Super Bowls was the fact that his players and the people around him, when they won and were going to or they won the championship, their divisional championship, and they were going to the Super Bowl, it started almost immediately for the next 36 hours. And he did it himself, which I thought was amazing. He said he did not delegate it to other people. Was that he calls it the Belichick travel agency or travel group, or one of the two. And he would make arrangements for all of his players, all of his players' families, getting the tickets, the hotel rooms, the special assignments, and everything. And the reason he did it is because he said that his job as a coach was to keep them focused and to keep them on task. And the biggest distraction that he had learned by being there before was the fact that a big game in a Super Bowl, you have 2 weeks of hype. You have 2 weeks of people not happy with their family member getting this or getting that. Or he even goes on to talk about the swag in which they get. And he handled that himself. And he talks about his Super Bowl losses and how he failed at, and he blames himself for not winning because of distractions. And it's fascinating. So the point I'm talking about is that resonated with me, that here I am also reading a book from Bill Belichick. I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And what Kiyosaki did to me was reinforce the fact that as being a coach, as wanting to build a team, be it on a team, was that the best thing I can do with my kids is to play a game in which I'm teaching them about money and how money works. And so anyways, I showed him pictures of my girls, and anyways, he's going to send me some board games out. So anyways, Kiyosaki was awesome. And then we come up to and what else? What did I write? I wrote a little bit about Kiyosaki, and basically, he's an entrepreneur, author, best known for his book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which advocates for financial literacy and independence. He founded the Rich Dad Company, providing financial education through various media. Now, what's consistent through everybody here is these are people that are successful or become successful, that are sharing what they have learned, and they're about education, and they're about sharing ideas, which is great. Nobody at this conference is selling anything. There's no, there's no booths to go. There's no floors to walk to buy different things. It's not how this is set up. So, anyways, the next person on the board that spoke was a guy by the name of Jeff Snider. And wow, I'm 43 minutes in. That's amazing. So Jeff Snider, he has something called Eurodollar University. He's an investment strategist. He's the founder of Eurodollar University. He specializes in analyzing the global monetary system, particularly the Eurodollar market, offering insights into liquidity and credit dynamics. Jeff is a amazingly smart person. He has forgotten more than I have ever known, I believe. So he started talking about recessions and different things, and gave us a very clear picture of where we're at, with an indication of where we're going by something that I thought I had an idea of what was happening. He completely blew my mind. So anyways, again, he has a YouTube page called Eurodollar University. The next person on the list was a guy by the name Mike Maloney. He's the founder of goldandsilver.com, an author of Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. He's a leading expert in precious metals, monetary history, known for the educational series Hidden Secrets of Money. So he got up and spoke and told me a lot of things I didn't know. But it was interesting. He's kind of been a big deal in that space for a while. But what was interesting is that you always kind of read through people. His whole hidden motivation is on building a sustainable farm in Puerto Rico with regenerative farming and net zero carbon with grass-fed beef and chickens and free range eggs. And anyways, he's developed a team. He brought his team up on stage. They talked about it. He flew them up from Puerto Rico, and just very interesting. Again, it's the team concept. It's the concept about perspective. And in fact, he said, he goes, I know nothing about farming. He's like, I found everybody around me that is an expert, that is the best at it, and they're on my team, which was really cool. The next guy was Brent Johnson. Brent is the CEO of Santiago Capital, creator of the dollar milkshake theory, which explains the U.S. dollar's strength in global markets. He manages investments with a focus on macroeconomic trends. Now, this probably goes over a lot of people's heads. I have, for the last year, really listened to the theory on the dollar milkshake and about the dollar and as the world reserve currency and whatnot. And it was an overriding topic. And like I said, when it comes time to do one on him, it's going to be interesting because he's a smart guy as well. Jason Hartman, real estate investor and educator. Jason Hartman is a real estate investor and founder of Empowered Investor. He has been involved in numerous real estate transactions, providing education on income property investing through his platform. Now, I had met Jason Hartman last year, and I had talked with him, and I was really sour on real estate, and he gave me a complete different side this time down there that I will tell you that I think I'm wrong, and I think he's right, and I'm going to do a video on it. Again, it's through research, and what I like about these guys, it's data. This is what's happening. This is what it's telling us. Again, if something is telling you something, believe it. Believe in what it's telling you. As I said before, if someone tells you who they are, believe who they are. And again, after looking through his work and what he does through education and pulls all the information out, kudos to you, Mr. Hartman. I don't, not that I don't normally say it, but I'm man enough to say, you changed my perspective on where we are in the real estate cycle and also what's happening in the real estate market. Sometimes if you're too close to things, you can't see it as well as someone else can. And again, this is where that whole networking, investing in yourself really is starting to pay off. The last person they had come up and speak was a guy by the name of Chris MacIntosh. Now, I had listened to him last year, listened to him this year, and what's interesting about Chris MacIntosh is I share a lot of the same fundamentals as he does, as far as how I would manage money, how he manages money. But what was really cool was that, and I share a lot of the same theories and thoughts on money as and investments as MacIntosh does. So again, it was a validation of what he was telling everybody else really resonated with me because it gave me a feeling of feeling validated in my thoughts and how I go about things. Now, McIntosh, he manages a boatload of money. He's the founder of Capitalist Exploits, managing partner of Glenarchy Capital with experiences at firms like Lehman Brothers, JP Morgan. And he has insights on macro investing and portfolio management. So again, these are all things that might not interest everybody. They certainly interest me. The take that I'm really having is that talking about this is the fact that spending a weekend away from my family to invest in myself, was it worth it? I think you can tell from the tone. You know, I'm just going to go back to these notes that I made real quick. And, I start off by saying why I attended. My typical Memorial Day is family time. This year I did something different. Last year we went to a theme park and went away with the family, had a great time. Okay. This year I did something different. I invested in myself. I felt bad because I thought I was being selfish. It just so happened is I didn't choose to do something away from my family. What I did was I chose to reinvest in myself. I chose to, for a better life, for a better understanding, for everything else. For me, this was more important to go sit and learn, educate, network, get a check in of where I was at, what opportunities there would be, building my like-minded community, building like-minded friends, reconnecting with people, building networks. I felt like it was more important to go do that than one weekend. And why did I choose to go? Is because of growth, perspective, and just real world class ideas. And a lot of people think that, well, it doesn't matter. I don't make a difference. Yes, you do make a difference. What was really interesting that was said, that the chances of you being created as a human are 1 in 3 trillion. So you are special. You have already beat the odds. You've beat them 1 in 3 trillion. So, and again, that's something I got out of the conference. The decision wasn't easy, but was it worth it? This next thing I wrote was about stepping out of your own echo chamber or echo chamber. You get trapped. The same people around you all the time. Everybody that you spend all your time with, you start to think like them, talk like them, be like them. And again, it's that sum of 5. I met 2 fantastic families when I was down there, and their families went to this conference. And one was from Florida, and he is a civil engineering firm in Florida, pretty large one. And I talked to his son, I talked to him, and his brother-in-law was there, and just fantastic guys. In fact, I can't wait to meet up with him. In fact, I told him, I said, the next time I'm in Florida, I want to come see your operation. I want to spend more time with you. And come to find out, he trades options too. Again, like-minded person, like-minded individual, which I thought was really awesome. Then I also met another father and son. He's an attorney. I just happened to be walking. I was doing a live because I thought I was going to have more time to film. He was an investment professional. Hung out at the pool with him for the 2 hours that I didn't network or talk or anything else. But I hung out with them. So I guess it was still networking. And they were great guys. His son's in Arizona. He's in Illinois. They met there together and spent a couple days together over Memorial Day. Again, like-minded individuals. And then and there's many more. But the other really cool thing was I met a young guy, and he's 23 years old, graduated from the University of South Carolina. Um, uh, and he saw that I was wearing a Clemson shirt, and he walked up to me and he basically said, "Clemson sucks," because he went to the University of South Carolina, big rivalry, and were just joking and everything. And uh, anyways, come to find out, great young guy, awesome guy, and he came down there because he had won some scholarship money that was left over that they allowed him to spend, and he chose this event to come to learn. And um, it was incredible. I can only hope one day that maybe instead of running around doing something crazy and wild and non-productive or even possibly risky behavior, that maybe that one of my children would do something like that. And it was incredible to meet a young guy, several young guys that were there. Again, like-minded people. Um, so again, blocking the noise of the day-to-day life, reflection and perspective as a father, an investor, and a business person. Um, networking, friendships made, having authentic conversations with people. Like I felt like I really have known them for a while. Reconnecting with familiar faces and sharing wins and losses. Um, uh, so, anyways, when I get back down to it, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I think there's a general overall theme that you can understand that yes, uh, this was an awesome event. I've just spent an hour talking basically in rough terms in an outline fashion for my first episode of um, uh, the perspective and the Rebel Capitalist Live and the people that I met. Thank you for listening. I hope you're getting something out of this. I am going to do follow-up episodes on this and just what we talked about with each one of those individuals. So thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one.